Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. Global Arrival. Only I Choose Armor. Chapter 21. Xingtian, you are Yi Feng. At this time, listening to Yi Feng's words, Zhao Qing murmured subconsciously. Then he seemed to think of something and felt this familiar atmosphere. Then he spoke with a serious look on his face. The tone was full of surprise and uncertainty. This is especially true when seeing the surrounding scenes. My head suddenly felt a little short-circuited. At this time, listen to Zhao Qing's words. The proclaimer, who was rushed aside by the aftermath of the explosion and distanced himself from these monsters, heard this. His expression was startled, and he subconsciously turned his head to look at Yi Feng. A look of curiosity on his face. This person is Yi Feng. But thinking about it carefully, it seems that Yi Feng is the only one in Tianai City who has awakened armor powers and can wear armor. In the past few decades, the land of Kyushu has gradually awakened the armor power. So if this person in front of me is not Yi Feng, who could he be? But, thinking of this, the proclaimer looked at the monsters lying on the ground around him, wailing incessantly. Thinking of the light cannon that fell from the sky earlier, the proclaimer couldn't help but become somewhat silent. The monster that put him in a tough fight was just defeated by the opponent. Are you sure this is a new person? I'm sure this is the strength that a newcomer can have. Is that a light cannon that a newly awakened person can emit? It is certain that Yi Feng awakened the armor ability. Thinking of this, the proclaimer felt a little suspicious. Are you really Yi Feng? Can't help but wait for Yi Feng to say something. Then he spoke, a serious look on his face. Feeling the gaze of Zhao Qing and the proclaimer, Yi Feng played a trick and faced Zhao Qing and the proclaimer. It's me, but if there's anything else, let's talk about it later. After all, the rightful owner is still here. Feeling the expressions of the two people, Yi Feng nodded directly. He admitted openly, anyway, there is nothing to hide or cover up. And although Xingtian armor is not like Shira armor, it has requirements on the character of the summoner. But with a secretive personality, he will definitely be unable to unleash the armor's true strength. And Yi Feng has no need to hide it. He also wants people in this blue star world to re-understand armor and define armor. After changing their understanding, the armor is not weak, it is even stronger than they imagined. It might be the number one ability. If anyone has bad thoughts, just kill them. By the way, increase the armor energy and unlock more armors. He has the confidence and confidence. Therefore, Yi Feng directly admitted it, and because of this, even though Zhao Shui and the others were there at the time, Yi Feng directly transformed into the Xingtian armor without any hesitation. At the same time, he said the last thing and smiled softly. He turned his head slightly and looked behind him. And listening to Yi Feng's words, Zhao Qinghe and the proclaimer already had guesses in their hearts. But at this time, his expression was still a little dazed. The two looked at each other and saw shock in each other's eyes. His expression was one of shock. I never expected that it would actually be him. Then after hearing Yi Feng's words, he subconsciously turned his head and looked over. I saw Kubisho looking at Yi Feng coldly at this time. Since Yi Feng appeared here, Kubisho's eyes have never left Yi Feng. It seems that what the captain said is true, the heir of Xingtian armor has also appeared. And it seems to be more powerful than they imagined. Seeing Yi Feng at this time, Zhao Qing and the announcer looked towards him. The coldness in his eyes became stronger and stronger. I didn't expect you to come here. It seems our plan has failed. You are stronger than we thought, but that's right. After all, those are just trash. It's normal to lose to you. It can only be said that we underestimated you. His fists were clenched tightly. He said coldly. And listening to Kubisho's words, Zhao Qing's beautiful eyebrows couldn't help but frown. Sure enough, Brother Chupis would do this and entangle her and the proclaimer here. Sure enough, he had ulterior motives. Only, is his target Yi Feng? Thinking of this, Zhao Qing looked at Yi Feng with a confused expression. Said thoughtfully, but you actually showed up here, and I solved you here, so the mission has been completed. And do you know why I arranged so many magical beasts here? In addition to stopping these two people, I also set a trap for you. Now that you are really here, then stay here. At this time, Kubisho didn't wait for Yi Feng to say something. Then he spoke, a look of coldness on his face. At the end, he waved his big hand. And as Kupisho's order was issued, the monster lying on the ground slowly stood up. His eyes were red, a look of madness on his face. With a roar, they all rushed towards Yifeng. Momentum is also mentioned at this moment. Seeing this, the proclaimer was about to help. However, what made him dumbfounded was palm of fire. When Yifeng saw this scene, he calmly took back the fire gun in his hand. Take out another card and put it in the summoner. Said softly. Then a set of fighting weapons similar to gauntlets appeared on Yifeng's palm. Then under the dumbfounded gaze of the proclaimer, Yifeng directly fought with these dozens of monsters. There was a boom, and just for a moment, a monster was shot into pieces by Yifeng. The monster hit Yifeng, leaving only moderate tooth marks and no effective damage. Seeing this scene, Zhao Qing and the proclaimer couldn't help but be surprised. Curious defense. And what shocked them the most was, sure enough, Yifeng's strength is not D level at this time. It's C level, and it's not simple either. He's also a strong one among C level. The pinnacle of C level. Zhao Qing was seen watching this scene and thinking about what just happened. His expression could not help but condense, and he slowly spoke. His tone was full of shock. At this time, Zhao Shui and a group of trialists, who had arrived late, heard Zhao Qing's words. Just stood there stupidly. Although I had already speculated in my heart, I heard Zhao Qing's affirmative words at this time. Still standing there stupidly, with a look of shock on his face. Looking at Yifeng in shock. C level. Is it really C level? Didn't he just wake up? He has strength beyond D level just after awakening. Is this the true potential of armor? I couldn't help but be a little dumbfounded. After Yifeng finished dealing with those Warcraft in the Warcraft forest, under the astonished eyes of everyone, he collected all the magic crystals scattered on the ground into the armor summoner. Then before they could say anything, his body flashed. He disappeared directly from everyone's eyes. When they came to their senses, they could no longer see Yifeng's figure. All the testers couldn't help but look at each other in confusion. Yifeng, where has he gone? Could it be? Zhao Shui looked at this scene and slowly came back to her senses. Looking at the noise coming from far away, he murmured softly. Then without thinking, he ran over. Rushed towards that place. The other testers couldn't help but look at each other when they heard this. Then he gritted his teeth and followed directly. After all, Yifeng saved them. If it weren't for Yifeng, they would have died in the Warcraft rebellion. They don't think that the crazy monster still has much sense. And that place should be where the Proclaimer and the Protector are. So no matter what, they have to go there. Go and help. However, when they arrived, they were shocked by the aura exuded by those monsters, and their faces turned pale. But what shocked them even more was Yifeng. Watching Yifeng fight these sea-level monsters alone. Not only was he not at a disadvantage, he also had the upper hand. No, how can you have the upper hand? This is completely suppressing these monsters. In just a short while, many monsters were shot into pieces by Yifeng. Seeing this scene, the trialists who came over, including Zhao Shui, froze and stood there stupidly. He stared blankly at the scene happening in front of him. However, before they could recover, they heard Zhao Qing's words. Everyone's expressions couldn't help but be shocked, and their expressions became more and more stunned. Yifeng actually has sea-level strength. And it didn't take long, not even a day. In short, Yifeng has this power right after he awakens. Thinking of this, everyone present couldn't help but become a little dull. I didn't expect that Yifeng actually has sea-level strength. It's really scary. Is this the creation talent? Or is this the true potential of the armor, or is it both? At this time, Zhao Shui slowly came back to her senses. Looking at the scene in front of him, he sighed slowly. Said softly, a look of curiosity on his face. I think it might be because of talent. Of course, I don't rule out the existence of armor powers. I'm afraid his armor is not simple. At this time, Zhao Shui didn't have to wait long to think about it. At this time a voice came. It directly attracted Zhao Shui's attention. Subconsciously he turned his head and looked over. I saw Zhao Qing slowly walking over and replied softly. A serious look on his face. Zhao. Seeing this, Zhao Shui came to her senses instantly. He said with a respectful look. After all, Zhao Qing is not only responsible for this trial awakening, but he is also a teacher at Tianai College. It is not an exaggeration to call Zhao Shui a teacher. And it seems that the protector of this term should be Zhao Qing. What are you doing? Zhao Qing heard this and nodded. Then he looked at the group of trialists behind Zhao Shui and couldn't help but say to Zhao Shui, I have already made some guesses in my heart. In fact, it was indeed the case. Hearing that they followed Yi Feng, he couldn't help but nodded. Then I heard a commotion among the monsters in the forest and surrounded them, but they were all killed by Yi Feng, including the only sea-level monster. When he heard this, Zhao Qing couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief. Just be fine. This time it's all thanks to Yi Feng. However, after hearing that Yi Feng directly killed a sea-level monster, I couldn't help but feel surprised. Then I heard about the conflict between Yi Feng, Lu Yi and Wang Ao. The beautiful eyebrows couldn't help but frown. But when they thought that this was all their own fault, they felt relieved when they brought Yi Feng's trouble on their own. After all, he is not a child anymore, and he should be responsible for his own actions. Even if they die, they brought it on themselves. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing didn't care. Instead he nodded. Wait a minute, and when this is over, leave here with me. Let's talk about the trial later. Then he looked at everyone present and spoke slowly. But, Teacher Zhao, is Yi Feng's strength really only sea level? Zhao Shui heard this and nodded. Then he seemed to think of something, and then spoke. Yes, although it is hard to believe, Yi Feng's strength is indeed sea level, and he is also a strong person at sea level. It should be the pinnacle of sea level, and it's not an ordinary one, it's similar to a genius level existence. Zhao Qing heard this and nodded. He spoke slowly. However, the words were not finished yet. He was interrupted by Zhao Shui. But teacher, if you see this, it looks like a sea level. I saw Zhao Shui pointing forward somewhat dully and saying with a numb scalp. Originally, she came here to protect Yi Feng. However, with Yi Feng's strength, he doesn't know who is protecting whom. He almost protects me. In fact, this is indeed the case. Without Yi Feng, he would have died long ago. It was indeed protected by Yi Feng. What? Listening to Zhao Shui's words, Zhao Qing couldn't help but be stunned. Turning his head slightly, he looked towards Yi Feng. Just as they were communicating, Kupixiu couldn't hold back anymore and joined the battle. When Yi Feng saw this scene, he decisively retracted the fire palm and summoned the fire sword. Then he inserted the fire sword upside down on the ground, then directly gathered energy in his right hand and injected it into the fire sword through the handle. Then he slashed around, and a dazzling light blade appeared instantly. Blast in all directions. Suddenly, with Yi Feng as the center, there were light blades all around, making bursts of noise. Fire-shaped soared the fire torture and the universe. Smoke and dust scattered, when Yi Feng stopped what he was doing and stood with his sword in hand. At this time, only Kupixiu was left half kneeling on the ground, and many magic crystals were scattered on the ground. Gudong. Watching this scene, watching Yi Feng suppress the entire audience, everyone present couldn't help but swallowed subconsciously. There was a look of surprise and uncertainty on his face. I think this is not a C level, but a half-step B level. And he's not the usual kind. He's a genius who can leapfrog his way to the next level. He's a half-step B-level genius. C-level invincible. At this time, the proclaimer looked at this scene. Said softly, the small levels are divided into early stage, middle stage, peak stage and half-step. And Yi Feng is impressively standing at the top of the C-level. Invincible at the same level, fight across levels. This is Armor Xingtian, half-step B-level. C-level invincible, but he can fight beyond the level and is extremely talented. After listening to the announcer's words, the scene instantly became quiet. His face was filled with a dazed look. After all, a small realm under a level is only the early stage, middle stage, peak, and half-step. And half a step means that the strongest power of this realm has been reached, the limit. We have already half-stepped into a new realm. And Yi Feng is half-step B-level. What does that mean? This means that Yi Feng has already half-stepped into the B-level threshold. Although level B is only the third last among all levels, it is not worth mentioning. But you must know that it is not so easy to improve the level, especially later. Even if Zhao Qing has an S-level talent, he still only has the strength of an early B-level talent. And this is considered a strong person in her generation, even at the age of 20. Among this generation in Kyushu, they are all considered to be strong geniuses. As you can imagine, leveling up is not as easy as imagined. Especially people like Yifeng, who had just awakened and transformed into armor with such power, it blinded their eyes. As soon as he woke up, he had half-step B-level strength. It was only a matter of time before he stepped into B-level. It was a piece of cake. It's hard for everyone to believe. This is still the kind of armor they know. Especially Zhao Qing, he feels like he has lived like a dog in the past 2 years training time. Doubt life. But the magic crystals scattered on the ground told them that this was the truth. They were right, and everyone couldn't help but become a little silent. And just when Zhao Qing and others were shocked by Yifeng's strength. At this time, the secret realm of Tianai. As the largest secret realm in Tianai City, there are all kinds of powerful monsters in it. According to the division of secret realms, they can be divided into 3 secret realms: large, medium and small. The strongest levels of Warcraft present in it are C level, B level, and A level. As the largest secret realm in Tianai City, C level ones are naturally at the bottom, with as many as dogs. Therefore, you can go inside to practice adventure and improve your strength. They are usually A-level superpowers. But in such a large secret realm, something strange happened at this time. The originally good secret realm was suddenly shaken, and now there is a crack. Looking at this small hole, I felt the chill coming from inside. Yi Tian couldn't help but frown slightly. What the hell is going on? This is so good, why is there a crack in the secret realm? An opening, he said with a puzzled look on his face. Not long ago, there was a sudden huge vibration in this secret realm, and then cracks appeared. The escort guarding here is unconscious at this time and has not woken up yet. I don't know if anything escaped from this crack. And the most important thing is that no matter how comfortable they are, they can't close this secret realm. Although he really wanted to take a team to investigate and see what was going on. But he is worried about Tianai City, especially his own children. Although someone has been sent to the World of Warcraft forest to prevent things from the secret realm from causing trouble to Yifeng. A team of people were also sent to search the city. At this time, Yi Tian didn't know that the thing he cared about had already found Yifeng. By the way, they were all destroyed, leaving no one behind. And this means that the people he sends out are destined to get nothing. But because of this, Yi Tian didn't have many people in his hands at this time. What if he goes in like this and another monster comes out after he leaves? He didn't think that just by himself, he could destroy all the monsters inside and ensure that not a single monster escaped. This made Yi Tian really distressed. Just when Yi Tian was in distress, a voice came and brought Yi Tian back to his senses. At the same time, I couldn't help but feel happy inside. What's wrong? What happened? At this time, the old man who had been with Zhao Qing before looked at the distressed Yi Tian. He couldn't help but speak slowly. Behind him were many senior officials from Tianai College, and even the dean came. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian was happy. This way, he would have no worries and he could safely take people in to investigate. Then he slowly greeted him. And just when Yi Tian thought he had solved his worries, Yifeng was worried about Yi Tian. Just when the scene turned extremely quiet. At this time, Zhao Qing was the first to come to his senses. Looking at Yifeng, he walked over slowly. He frowned and glanced at Kupixiu. You know them. Then he looked at Yifeng and said with curiosity. They can be said to be the most intelligent villains. You can call them ghost demons. Listening to Yifeng's words, everyone couldn't help but be stunned. The most intelligent villain, the Nether Demon. Netherworld Demon. The most intelligent villain and enemy. Listening to Yifeng's words, Zhao Qing slowly came back to his senses. The beautiful eyebrows couldn't help but frown. Whispered softly. Speaking of which, these enemies are indeed different from the enemies they encountered before, and they are very intelligent. After all, although Kubisho did not directly reveal the purpose of this operation, now, after understanding what happened, Zhao Qing still guessed the other party's purpose and plan. It's nothing more than blocking her and the Proclaimer on one side, and activating the power of the Warcraft forest on the other side. Use the power of the monsters in the Warcraft forest to deal with Yifeng. But I didn't expect Yifeng to be so strong. Not only did he fail, he was also killed by Yifeng. At the same time, it seems that this scenario has been considered, which is why she and the Proclaimer have so many sea-level peak monsters. But what I didn't expect was that the second backup plan was also defeated by Yifeng, and even the leader of the incident, Kupixiu, became Yifeng's prisoner. Obviously he underestimated Yifeng's strength. In this way, the opponent is indeed not only capable of reckless actions, but also capable of killing. But what Zhao Qing was curious about was why the other party didn't directly send out more powerful forces. It was because he was worried about the strong men in Tian'ai City. Or are there other reasons? But compared to this, Zhao Qing was more curious and confused at this time. How did Yifeng know? However, looking at the fire sword in Yifeng's hand, Zhao Qing gave up his intention to ask further. After all, she knew very well that this might be a secret to Yifeng. And she also believes that as time goes by, she will definitely find out and know what is going on. The future is long, don't rush now. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing shook his head and brought himself back to reality. Subconsciously, I threw this confusion to the back of my head and selectively forgot it. Then he asked another question. Yifeng, what are you going to do now? Looking at Kupixiu, who was half kneeling on the ground, bleeding purple blood. He couldn't help but look at Yifeng and spoke slowly. When the others heard this, they came to their senses instantly. Suppress all the surprise and confusion in your heart. He looked towards Yifeng, his eyes full of curiosity. And listening to Zhao Qing's words, Kubisho also recovered from the pain. Gritting his teeth, he raised his head slightly. His eyes widened and he stared at Yifeng. Xingtian. If it weren't for the restrictions in the secret realm and the restrictions between this world and the earth, we wouldn't be able to use more power. The one kneeling here now is not me, but you, Xingtian. He said coldly. His fists were clenched tightly, his eyes filled with anger. And listening to Kubisho's words, a hint of surprise flashed in Zhao Qing's eyes. So that's it. But in this case, is it really caused by the change in the secret realm? That being said, the current secret realm is very uneven. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing frowned tightly. And you guys, don't be complacent either. I am just the weakest one among us. When the captain and the general arrive, this planet is destined to be ruled by us. At this time, after seeing this scene, Kupixiu immediately spoke. His eyes were full of pride. After hearing these words, Zhao Qing and others couldn't help but feel shocked. A look of surprise on his face. Kubishu, who has an early stage B level, is actually the weakest among these nether demons. So how strong are they? Will the strongest one be S level, SS level, or even stronger? Thinking of this, the expressions of Zhao Qing and others couldn't help but change. His expression became a little solemn. And what surprised them was. Rub. Yifeng listened to Kubisho's words and nodded secretly. It seems that Lufa and the others cannot show up so quickly due to various restrictions. But even so, they are obviously targeting him. Is it because I summoned Xingtian? I can only say that they are worthy of being mortal enemies. Before anyone even showed up, they wanted to solve themselves. But fortunately, Lufa didn't show up so soon, otherwise if Lufa did show up, given his personality, maybe he would come directly to trouble Yifeng in person, and it would be bad then. Yifeng doesn't think that he can compete with Lu Fa with the combat power of his current Xingtian armor, and he's afraid that he won't know how cool it will be when the time comes. But now it seems that the worst thing will obviously not happen so soon. Thinking of this, Yifeng nodded secretly. But you have to hurry up and improve your strength quickly. The Kupixiu in front of you is very good. And I also know where the other party comes from, so there is no need to keep it. Yifeng didn't want to leave a person who was always thinking about how to kill him and live in fear. Thinking of this, I saw Yifeng holding the burning sword directly under everyone's shocked eyes. Looking at Kupixiu, who was laughing crazily in front of him, he struck directly. Seeing this scene, Kupixiu struggled hard. But at this time, he had already lost his strength. Xingtian, the captain will not let you go. I could only shout loudly and unwillingly. I'm not Xingtian. My name is Yifeng. Yifeng said coldly. Don't these guys think that Yifeng can only transform into Xingtian armor? That's why he shouted Xingtian one sentence at a time. If they knew that Yifeng could not only transform into Xingtian, but also other armors, I don't know if I will be shocked. Thinking of this, Yifeng had a strange look on his face. Listening to Yifeng's words, Kupixiu couldn't help but be stunned. A look of astonishment on his face. And it didn't take long for him to think about it. Under the astonished gaze of everyone, Yifeng struck Kupixiu with a sword, splitting him in half instantly. Then the figure fell down and slowly disappeared. And you don't need to tell me, I will also go to the secret realm to have a look. Seeing this scene, Yifeng put away the fire sword. Said coldly. At this time, only a piece of crystal was left lying quietly on the ground. Seeing this scene, Yifeng nodded secretly. Sure enough, even the nether demon is like this. In other words, this is the law of this world. As long as there are dark creatures, there are magic crystals. As for the reason, Yifeng may have to find it himself. Destroyed. A nether demon with B-level initial strength was just wiped out. Killed with one sword. Didn't you say that those who are in the early stage of B-level have very strong physical fitness, so they can't be hurt by ordinary swords? Although it is possible to leapfrog the battle, is this too exaggerated? At this time, all the testers slowly came to their senses. Watching Yifeng casually cut the powerful nether demon Kubishu in half with a sword. The scene dissipated between heaven and earth. Can't help but whisper. He looked a little shocked. Although I know you are strong and can fight beyond the level. Sooner or later, nether demon Kubishu would be eliminated by Yifeng, but he didn't expect it to be so easy. It was chopped casually, just like beheading a pig. Seeing this scene, all the trialists couldn't help but become somewhat silent. Even Zhao Qing's eyes were full of surprise when he saw this scene. He took a deep look at Yifeng. Yu Qi looked at Yifeng's right hand and subconsciously took a step back. It was as if Yifeng still had the sword in his right hand and had not put away the burning sword. Fearing that Yifeng would slip, he would swipe at her. The bodies are separated. The gap between us and him is really huge. At this time, Zhao Shui saw this scene. He couldn't help but shook his head and smiled softly. He spoke slowly. Originally, the reason why she delayed the trial until now was because of Yifeng. I came here to protect Yifeng. But, thinking of this, I looked around. He couldn't help but shook his head. The gap between them widened from the very beginning. And when everyone's expressions were different, Yifeng didn't care what these people were thinking. He didn't expect that something that seemed normal and ordinary to him would attract everyone's attention. After all, in Yifeng's view, Kubishu is indeed the weakest existence among all the nether demons. It's not that the other person is deprecating themselves. Zhao Qing and the others don't know, but Yifeng knows, in the armor world. This Kubishu was the first group to receive the lunch box. Both the newly transformed Hiei and Kong can be defeated. Of course, in Yifeng's view, all this is just basic behavior. But it is also time to test the conjecture and see the crystal stones produced by the mortal enemy. Will it be more effective than ordinary Warcraft crystals? Thinking of this, Yifeng looked at these crystals and the magic crystals scattered on the ground, and nodded slightly. He casually placed his hands on the armor summoner on his abdomen. Seeing this scene, Zhao Qing came to his senses first. What are you? He said with some confusion. Only Zhao Shui and others looked thoughtful when they saw this scene. And before Zhao Qing could finish speaking, what shocked her was. Rub. I saw these crystal stones that were standing still floating directly. Then, under the astonished eyes of Zhao Qing and the Proclaimer, he directly entered the armor summoner. Seeing this scene, Zhao Qing and the Proclaimer were dumbfounded. Especially Zhao Qing. If he originally wanted to say something, he swallowed it down. When magic crystals are collected normally, shouldn't they be stored in a space ring or space bag? How come it's Yifeng's turn and it's stored directly in the armor summoner? Could it be that the inside of this summoner is its own space? What made them even more shocked and even silent was. Rub. After all the magic crystals were put into the armor summoner, Yifeng slowly raised his hands and crossed them down. A faint light flashed past Yifeng. At this time, everyone had the illusion that Yifeng's strength had risen again and became stronger. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing and others couldn't help but become a little silent. They didn't care whether Yifeng's strength had improved or not. At this time, they looked at Yifeng's armor summoner. His expression became a little complicated. Not only can it immobilize a person, but it also has the ability to see through illusions, and there is no way to hide anything. Now there seems to be a space of its own inside, where you can collect magic crystals yourself. It is simply a must-have item for fighting monsters and upgrading. Looking at Yifeng's summoner, I recall the function of Yifeng's summoner. Everyone became more and more silent. He looked at Yifeng blankly. Tell us honestly, your so-called armor summoner is definitely not an artifact. But at the World of Warcraft forest, everyone looked a little silent. At this time, the secret realm of Tianai. You plan to go in personally and see what's going on in this secret realm. At this time, the leading old man listened to Yi Tian's plan. He frowned and spoke. The old man was followed by a group of senior officials from Tianai College, and even the dean of Tianai College was here. Obviously this old man's identity is not simple. His knowledge was naturally extraordinary, and when he heard Yi Tian's words, his tone couldn't help but be filled with surprise. Not only him, listening to Yi Tian's words, the senior officials of Tianai College following behind him also frowned. His expression was a little solemn. Yes, no matter what happens, the crack cannot be healed. So you can only go in personally to see what's going on. Otherwise, when things get worse, it will be a disaster for the entire Tianai. Yi Tian heard this and nodded. Looking at the old man, he slowly spoke. His expression was very serious. However, before he finished speaking, he was interrupted by the old man. That won't work either, it's too dangerous. If something happens, you will all report it inside. I can't just watch you die. And I have already told Kyoto about Tianai. Kyoto will send someone soon. The old man shook his head and said firmly. His expression was very serious. Listening to the old man's words, Yi Tian shook his head. It's too late. I'm afraid I won't be able to wait for support from Kyoto. Just for a moment, the crack got bigger again. I saw Yi Tian slowly speaking. As he spoke, he looked at the crack and stretched out his right hand. Injecting his own energy into this crack, it had no effect. It seems to have disappeared without a trace. If this continues, all the magical beasts in the secret realm inside will escape. As you know, this is the largest secret realm in Tianai City. If all the monsters inside escape, it will be a fatal blow to the entire Tianai City. And if the creature that causes the change in the secret realm comes out, it will really be all over. So, then, without waiting for the old man to say anything, Yi Tian spoke immediately. As he spoke, he thought of Yifeng. If these monsters really came out, Yifeng might not be able to live a good life. Thinking of this, Yi Tian's expression became more serious. At the end, he paused slightly. The best way at the moment is for me to take a team in to check it out. You guys will stay in the secret place and guard it. If anything happens, just take action. Looking at the people in front of him, he spoke. A serious look on his face. As the captain of the Tianai Guards, he is also one of the strongest people in Tianai City. If he doesn't go, who will? This is also his responsibility. He can't let a group of teachers go and kill him. Listening to Yifeng's words, the old man wanted to say something else. But I didn't know what to say. Okay, be safe. He could only nod his head and speak slowly. When Yi Tian heard this, he didn't say much. Instead, he directly led the last team, a total of 15 people. Chi followed Yi Tian and walked in through the crack. And just when Yi Tian led the team into the Tianai secret realm. At this time in the World of Warcraft forest, just when Zhao Qing and others looked at the summoner on Yifeng's abdomen, they were in a daze. At this time, Yifeng felt the changes in the armor at this time. He nodded secretly, and in just a moment, his armor powers and armor energy increased a lot. And it is indeed as Yifeng guessed, it seems to be due to mortal enemies. The crystals produced by the Nether Demon can greatly improve Yifeng. He believes that as long as he fights more monsters and more ghost demons, then you might as well unlock new armor. Become stronger. Just for a moment, Yifeng found that he seemed to have a slight connection with Fang and King Kong in the creation ring. This is. Just as Yifeng was thinking secretly, Zhao Qing on the side came to his senses. It seems that something has been discovered. I saw that there was still something similar to a token in the place where the crystal produced by Cupicius was. Seeing this, Zhao Qing subconsciously picked it up. He looked at Yi Feng and said with a puzzled expression. Seeing this, Yi Feng looked over subconsciously. At the same time, he reached out and took it. I saw that there was only one word written on this token, red. The token of the Kai Ming team. Yi Feng thought secretly, and at the same time his body and mind sank, and he used his own power to come into contact with the token. A hint of understanding flashed in Yi Feng's eyes. So that's it. At the same time, I felt a little excited inside. This is an opportunity to unlock Ye and King Kong. This token is connected to another space, and that place is most likely the Tianai secret realm. It's a medium, a channel. It should be used by Kubisho to return to the secret realm of Tianai after completing his mission. Now it's Qin Feng's advantage. It just so happens that you can use this token to go to the secret realm of Tianai. Although at first glance, it seems a bit reckless and dangerous. But that secret realm was not where the Nether Demon's army was stationed at this time, and even if Yi Feng entered, the Nether Demon inside would not know that Yi Feng had appeared. So it's not a big problem and there's no life-threatening danger. Yi Feng can definitely use fighting to support fighting, and constantly improve his strength through fighting. And when they find out, maybe Yi Feng's strength has already broken through to the point where they can't match it, and they can only stop. And this is also an opportunity to unlock Feng and King Kong and obtain enough crystals. Maybe it can be unlocked, so Yi Feng will go anyway. What's more, Kubisho actually appeared in this secret realm. With the personality of the Nether Demon, he would never do anything useless. Maybe they are trying to find a way to bring their army down. If this is the case, if the other party succeeds, Lufa and the three captains will appear inexplicably while Yi Feng is sleeping. That person would be scared to death. Therefore, it is not only in his interest, but also emotional and logical. Yi Feng must go in there. By the way, I just want to practice my hands and improve the fit. The previous battle was obviously not enjoyable. And just when Yi Feng had already made a plan in his mind, Zhao Qing saw this scene. Although Yi Feng was wearing armor at this time, he was surrounded and protected by armor. You can't see Yi Feng's expression at this time. But watching Yi Feng stare at the token in his hand, he nodded from time to time. Zhao Qing suddenly felt an ominous premonition in his heart. Yi Feng, what are you going to do next? Isn't this token as simple as it looks? Then he spoke to Yi Feng. Then he seemed to think of something and looked at the token. Then added, yeah, that's right. This token is connected to a space, which is the secret realm of Tianai. Yi Feng heard this and nodded. He admitted openly. Tell me your findings. Everyone was stunned, and a hint of surprise flashed in their eyes. Is it really related to the Tianai secret realm? Is this Nether Demon Kubisho from the secret realm of Tianai? After listening to Yi Feng's words, Zhao Qing raised his eyebrows. You're not planning to go in, are you? Looking at Yi Feng in front of him, he said cautiously. And after listening to Zhao Qing's words, everyone present came to their senses instantly. Subconsciously he looked towards Yi Feng. Suddenly there was a bad feeling in my heart. Yi Feng, now it's over. Let's go back first. After reporting this matter to the superiors, we will make plans. We will talk about your trial later. At this time, the proclaimer looked at this scene. He couldn't help but speak. The last sentence was obviously meant for others. After all, Yi Feng's strength was not even his opponent. What a crappy assessment. Arrange directly. Directly arrange the best resources for Yi Feng. Yes, Yi Feng, let's go back first. I think my uncle and aunt are waiting for you to come home right now. At this time, Zhao Shui couldn't help but take a step forward. He spoke. Others saw this, although they didn't say anything. But he still looked towards Master Yi Feng. At this time, their three views were changed, and they had a new understanding of armor. It turns out that armor can be used in this way. They will never forget what just happened. Therefore, they don't want anything to happen to Master Yi, whom they admire. They want more people to know about armor and get to know armor again. However, what makes everyone dumbfounded is Rub. Yi Feng shook his head. My own parents. I'm afraid I'm also worried about the secret realm at this time. However, Yi Feng did not explain anything, but directly injected his own power into the token, causing the token to be instantly filled with light. And Yifeng was also directly surrounded by white light at this moment. Seeing this, Zhao Qing subconsciously grabbed Yifeng, trying to pull Yifeng away. However, what I didn't expect was that with a flick of the brush, the two people disappeared together. Also missing is the token. Looking at this scene in the empty seats, Zhao Shui and others were dumbfounded. The two of them just went in. Thinking of this, Zhao Shui and others couldn't help but become a little silent. This is troublesome. At this time, the proclaimer saw this scene. He said somewhat worriedly, a look of worry on his face. Is this the secret realm of Tianai? It's really different from the outside, and it's a little gloomy. At this time, at the announcer, Zhao Shui and others were dumbfounded as they watched Zhao Qing and Yifeng disappear from everyone's eyes. Directly entering the secret realm of Tianai, I couldn't help but remain silent. At this time, within the secret realm of Tianai, Yifeng looked at the surrounding environment and felt the atmosphere here. He spoke slowly. I saw many dilapidated buildings here, which seemed to have little light and seemed dim. If these secret realms are all small spaces attached to Blue Star, then Yifeng felt that these spaces were formed by shattered worlds. It's just incomplete, just a part of it. Maybe it can only be seen when all the secret realms are integrated. But Yifeng didn't know it at this time. After all, it was also the first time for Yifeng to come to this secret realm. At this time, Zhao Qing also came to his senses. Looking at the secret realm of Tianai, I couldn't help but shake my head. Sighed softly. Unexpectedly, I still came in. Forget it, just come when you come, take it one step at a time. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing didn't say much. Instead, he calmed down. At this time, listening to Yifeng's words, he subconsciously looked towards Yifeng. You like it here? His eyebrows were raised slightly. Listening to Yifeng's calm tone, he spoke. Obviously he didn't know what Yifeng was thinking at this time. That's not true. I'm wearing armor now, so I don't feel much of it. But there is no doubt that this place is filled with the atmosphere of destruction, and it must feel very uncomfortable. Yifeng heard this and shook his head. He looked around and touched his armor. He spoke slowly. Hey, this is more than uncomfortable. Did you know? There are countless secret realms in Tianai City, but the only secret realm named after Tianai City is this one. Do you know what this means? Zhao Qing heard this and nodded. A look of approval on his face. At the same time, he sighed lightly, looked at Yifeng, and spoke slowly. His tone was full of worry. At the end, he paused slightly, staring at Yifeng closely. This means that this secret realm is the largest and most dangerous secret realm in Tianai City. There are as many C-level dogs as there are B-levels here, and A-levels are the highest. So under normal circumstances, non-A-levels are not allowed to come in. Otherwise there will be many dangers, even life-threatening. Then, without waiting for Yifeng to say anything, Zhao Qing spoke immediately. His expression was very serious. A serious look on his face. The danger you are talking about means that as soon as you come in, you will be attacked by the B-level leader and C-level monsters. Before Zhao Qing could finish speaking, Yifeng pointed forward. He spoke slowly. Right, that's it, so we must be careful and must not, What? Zhao Qing heard this and followed Yifeng's gaze. She saw dozens of monsters surrounding her and Yifeng. He was watching them eagerly. The momentum is compelling. Behind them, there was an early B-level monster staring at them with bright eyes. Seeing this scene, Zhao Qing nodded subconsciously. Said. Then he seemed to think of something and came back to his senses. His face suddenly stiffened and his expression changed. His tone suddenly stopped, and his expression was a little ugly. However, she didn't wait for her to come to her senses. Then he suddenly discovered that Yifeng looked at these monsters without the slightest fear. Instead, he slowly stepped forward and glanced at these monsters proudly. She seemed to get excited from Yifeng. He couldn't help but said with some surprise. Actually, the reason why I came in was not only to cut off future dangers. The other thing is fighting. Actual combat is the way to go. Only by fighting can you improve yourself. This is the spirit of armor. It seemed that he noticed that Zhao Qing's expression was telling him something. Yifeng glanced at these monsters and spoke slowly. As he spoke, he took out a card and pressed it directly into the summoner. Zhao Qing couldn't help but be shocked, with a dazed look on his face. What happened next was something that Zhao Qing would never forget for the rest of his life. Looking at this scene a little dull. Palm of fire. Xingtian palm. Covering the sky palm. Boom. As the armor spiritual. Are you okay here? Nothing happened, right? At the same time, outside the World of Warcraft forest in Tianai City. Just when Zhao Shui, the Proclaimer and others were silent. At this time, 5 people wearing escort uniforms were running towards here quickly. Looking at the scene of a messy wasteland, many trees have been broken, and there are even many bloodstains on the ground. If you look closely, you will see that it is not human blood, but the blood of monsters. This land seemed to have experienced some kind of destruction and was in a mess. Seeing this scene, everyone in the escort team couldn't help but frown. A look of worry on his face. Secretly shouting bad. However, after seeing Zhao Shui and others safe and sound, they couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief. It seems like nothing happened, everyone is still there. But why is this atmosphere so weird? It seems a bit heavy. Thinking of this, the team leader of the escort team took a step forward. He spoke slowly, a serious look on his face. Well, there was a big chaos in the Warcraft forest just now, and they attacked Zhao Shui and the others, but fortunately, they are all still there and have been calmed down. And all this was caused by another demon named Kupisiu. He is behind this incident. But according to Yi Feng, it may not be that simple. The Proclaimer heard this and looked at the Tianai escort team coming over. He nodded and spoke slowly. Skip the matter quickly and go back to the details naturally. When he said the last thing, his expression couldn't help but become serious. He looked at the team leader of the escort team seriously. Netherworld demon. It seems that this must be the dark creature that escaped from the secret realm. I didn't expect that it would come to the World of Warcraft forest. But fortunately, nothing happened, otherwise things would have been troublesome. When the group leader heard this, he frowned slightly. He said lightly. Then he seemed to think of something, and murmured with a somewhat enlightened expression. The attention was attracted by the words, Netherworld demon, and the last words of the announcer were directly ignored by the group leader. Did not hear. Instead, he looked at Zhao Shui and others and saw that although they were a little dirty, they were not injured. I couldn't help but secretly breathe a sigh of relief. It seemed like nothing serious happened. The nether demon that comes out shouldn't be very strong. So, where is that nether demon Kubisho? Were you eliminated? At the same time, he looked at the Proclaimer and spoke. Originally it was just a courtesy, but in the group leader's mind, this question actually already had an answer. After all, if he is not the announcer, who else could he be? It can't be these newcomers, testers. How can this be? Do not make jokes. If that were the case, he could stand on his head and eat shit without even pretending. However, Kupisiu has indeed been eliminated, but I am not the one who destroyed it. It's someone else. The Proclaimer shook his head and looked at the group leader's confident look. He said with a strange expression, this guy in front of me, shouldn't he think that he was the one who solved Nakupixiu? Could it be that there is some flag set? Well, I knew it. Don't worry, I will honor your credit this time. What? You didn't destroy it? When the little ancestor heard this, he nodded and said subconsciously. But halfway through, he seemed to have thought of something. His eyes almost bulged out. He looked at the Proclaimer in astonishment and said loudly. An incredible look on his face. Yes, not me. That person has early B-level strength. Of course it wasn't me. It's actually a very lucky thing that we are still alive. The Proclaimer heard this, nodded, and spoke. At the end, he had a look of emotion on his face. B-level strength. Listening to the announcer's words, the group leader couldn't help but exclaimed. A look of astonishment on his face. At the same time, cold sweat broke out. You must know that you are only at the peak of sea level and have the same strength as the Proclaimer. Although with his experience and some talent, he can fight against ordinary half-step B levels. But facing this early B level person, that is absolutely impossible. I'm afraid that when the time comes, they are not here to support, but to die. But it's okay. It's just that it's not him. Could it be? Thinking of this, the team leader subconsciously looked around. However, what made him dumbfounded was that Zhao Qing could not be seen at this time. Where has she gone? Yes, but it's not Zhao Qing, the protector. She left with that guy. At this time, the proclaimer heard and nodded. He spoke. He seemed to have guessed what the group leader was thinking. Then where did that person go? The group leader came to his senses after hearing this. He couldn't help but frown. Asked softly. Went to Tianai's secret realm. The proclaimer heard this and shook his head. He smiled bitterly. What? Listening to the announcer's words, the group leader couldn't help but be stunned. A look of surprise on his face. Tianai's secret realm. Is that a place they can go to? Not to mention now. Are you sure you're not going to die? By the way, where is our captain's young master, Mr. Yifeng? Why didn't I see anyone else? Thinking of this, the team leader suddenly felt the seriousness of the matter. I was about to go back and report, but at this moment, seeing that he didn't seem to see the figure he wanted to see in the team of trialists, he couldn't help but frown. He stopped and looked at the proclaimer and said, Actually, I haven't told you, and I don't know if you believe it or not. In fact, the person I mentioned who defeated the nether demon Kubisho and saved us is actually Mr. Yifeng. The proclaimer smiled bitterly upon hearing this. He spoke. What? Hearing this, everyone in the escort team present could not help but look stunned. Some looked at each other. Then, where is Master Yi now? After hearing this, the team leader stuttered a little. That's right, as you thought, you entered the Tianai secret realm, and you went in with Zhao Qing. Boom. At this moment, an explosion suddenly sounded, directly attracting the attention of everyone present. And there is the secret realm of Tianai. Bang. Listening to the announcer's words, the escort team leader almost lost his balance. Almost fell to the ground. A look of surprise and suspicion. He heard it right. This matter was solved by Master Yifeng, but didn't he just wake up? How can we solve this problem? Doesn't it mean that the other party has the strength of early B level? Could it be that after Yi Xiaogong awakens, he can defeat enemies with B level initial strength? So powerful, this made the team leader and the guards behind him a little unbelievable. However, this hasn't waited for them to accept the news, and now you tell him. Yifeng, Mr. Yi ran to Tianai's secret realm. Where can newcomers go? There are A-level monsters inside. What's more, an unknown mutation has occurred now, and I don't know if there are stronger dark creatures inside. Even if it doesn't happen, you'll be dead if you go in. Thinking of this, the team leader's face turned pale and his lips trembled. Something big happened. How should he report this to the captain? And just when the team leader's face was a little pale and his body was trembling. At this time, a vibrating sound suddenly came, directly attracting the attention of everyone present. That seems to be the location of the Tianai secret realm. Could something have happened in the secret realm? And just when the group leader and announcer met and communicated. At this time, within the secret realm of Tianai, Yifeng wore a gauntlet-type fighting weapon, the fire palm, and kept beating the attacking monsters to death one by one. At the same time, he led Zhao Qing quickly towards the center of the secret realm. Yifeng had a hunch that that was the crux of the problem. So if you want to know what happened and solve the problem, you must go where? As the largest and most dangerous secret realm in Tianai City, there are indeed many monsters in it. Especially as we get closer to the secret realm, the number of monsters increases. The level gets stronger. Therefore, Yifeng really fought all the way, fighting his way out. Xingtian Palm. Covering the sky palm. Summon card electric strike. Summon card fire gun. Electro-optical cannon. Boom. As Yifeng continued to move forward, he continued to fight with these monsters. Suddenly, various explosions resounded, as if the entire secret realm began to shake and shake. It was shaking. Zhao Qing, who was behind, looked at Yifeng numbly, watching Yifeng continue to take out cards from the summoning card box, and various weapons suddenly appeared in turn. Zhao Qing's scalp felt a little numb when he saw it. How many weapons do you have? I'm afraid it's not a humanoid weapons arsenal. And what made Zhao Qing's scalp numb the most was strong, really strong. It seems I still underestimated him. Looking at the fragments of monsters and blood-stained scenes around him. Watching Yifeng holding a torture gun, blasting an early B-level monster into pieces with one shot. Zhao Qing couldn't help but murmured softly. A look of amazement on his face. His expression was very emotional. How on earth did he do it? This simply swept the whole place. When he went to the Tianai secret realm, he even asked me to protect Yifeng when necessary. But I didn't expect that I would be protected instead. I'm afraid he never dreamed of it. Then Zhao Qing looked at the monsters around him and recalled what the old man said when he left. He couldn't help but shook his head. He sighed softly and spoke slowly. He smiled bitterly. Without Yifeng, I'm afraid she would die now. And who would have thought that the chaos in the Warcraft forest was also solved by Yifeng? I'm afraid those people will be shocked by then. And I don't know if it's her illusion, but it feels like Yifeng's strength has improved a lot. Illusion? How is this possible? It's impossible for him to become so strong in just such a short time. Fake. It must be an illusion. While Zhao Qing was thinking secretly, Yifeng skillfully put all the scattered magic crystals into the summoner. Yifeng clenched his fist slightly, and light seemed to flash across his chest. Feeling the changes in himself at this time, Yifeng nodded gently. Sure enough, fighting is the best way to improve your strength. This is especially true after seeing the message from the creation ring. He looked a little excited. The compatibility of Xingtian armor reaches 30%. Obviously this is also a way to improve the fit of the armor. In just that short moment, Yifeng felt that his compatibility with Xingtian armor had improved a lot. Then the strength has also been improved. After all, the difference between Yifeng and other superpowers is that the Xingtian armor itself is very powerful. As long as you make your armor stronger and your compatibility with the armor higher, Yifeng's strength will also increase accordingly. He improves his strength faster than others, and this is why Yifeng's initial strength is very strong from the beginning. The Xingtian armor itself is not weak either. Feeling all these changes, Yifeng nodded secretly and continued like this. It may not be possible to improve the compatibility with Xingtian armor to full level, and maybe it can be upgraded by then. Transform into the god of war Xingtian. While Yifeng was thinking secretly, an explosion suddenly came from not far away. Someone seemed to be fighting fiercely there, and Yifeng felt a familiar atmosphere there. Yifeng couldn't help but turn his head slightly and looked over subconsciously. Chapter 31. How come the secret realm is shaking? It shakes from time to time. What on earth is happening inside? At this time, outside the secret realm of Tianai, the old man watched as the secret realm of Tianai shook from time to time, as if something fierce had happened inside. He couldn't help but frown. He said with a surprised look on his face. I think there must have been a fierce battle inside. After all, something like this happened in the intermediate secret realm before, but the battle was so fierce that it almost stirred up many monsters in the secret realm, which caused this scene. At that time, a fugitive with A-level powers ran in, but what about this time? What on earth did Yi Tian and the others go through inside? What kind of battle would cause such a big sensation? At this time, the dean of Tianai College saw this scene. He spoke slowly, a thoughtful look on his face. At the end of the sentence, he couldn't help but frown slightly. His expression was very heavy. Look deeply at the secret realm in front of you. It can cause more than a third of the monsters in the secret realm to move. What exactly did Yi Tian experience inside? What happened in this secret realm? Thinking of this, the eyes of everyone present couldn't help but be filled with worry. Hope they are okay. After hearing this, the old man slowly came back to his senses. Looking at the secret realm in front of me and the cracks that seemed to be getting bigger and bigger, I couldn't help but sigh. He spoke slowly. Obviously at this time, neither the old man nor the dean of Tianai College thought that this scene would happen in the secret realm, which was extremely shocking. It's not what they thought at all, but because of Yifeng. After all, who would have thought that Yifeng would become stronger and stronger as he fought, his strength would continue to improve, and he would become more energetic as he fought. Everyone in Zhao Qing was confused. And most importantly, Yifeng especially likes those monsters whose strength is only C level and early B level. Although the Tianai secret realm is powerful, most of the monsters in it are at this level. The powerful one is in the center. So this scene happened. Yifeng led Zhao Qing towards the center. At the same time, in order to improve his strength, he killed people along the way and took the long way. Even the old man and the senior officials of Tianai Academy couldn't imagine that things turned out to be like this. They were all wrong. No one thought that a newcomer could be so strong and crazy. At this time, the escort heading to the Warcraft forest took the Proclaimer and others and ran towards the old man. In fact, although the old man and others guessed wrong, the situation of Etn and other escorts was indeed not good. I only saw the secret realm of Tianai. Etn, captain of the Tianai City Guards. As the captain of the escort team, Etn's strength is beyond doubt. His strength has reached the early stage of a level. He is one of the strongest men in Tianai City, and can also be said to have the ultimate strength in the early A level. There is only one step left to enter the mid-level A level. Moreover, the superpowers he controls are also very powerful. Although they are not one of the four most powerful superpowers recognized by Blue Star, they are the only ones that are very powerful compared to these four superpowers. Supernatural wind. Control the power of the wind. Therefore, although Yi Tian only has A-level talent, he is also the best among A-level talents. And Yi Tian also knew that this secret realm was very dangerous, so in order to ensure the completion of the investigation mission. Therefore, the escorts Yi Tian led at this time were all B-level strength. 15 people, 2 B-level peaks. 3 are in the middle stage of B-level, and the remaining 10 are in the early stage of B-level. They are the strongest group of guards and the elites of Tianai City. However, this elite is now in a tough fight. Especially the 2 peak B-level elite escorts were hit hard. The strength has been greatly weakened. Others also brought more or less with them. Together they were surrounded by these monsters. At this time, Yi Tian was facing off against 3 half-step A-level beasts in the secret territory of Tianai, as well as the only early level A-level monster in the secret territory. They were drawn out separately and formed a separate fighting circle. Yi Tian naturally knew the situation of the players behind him at this time. Knowing that they are in a desperate situation, they are afraid that someone will die soon, and then they will all be wiped out. But at this time, Yi Tian had no choice. At this time, he was sure that as long as he dared to do it, then the 4 monsters in front of him will definitely attack him once he is injured. That will definitely speed up the process of the entire escort team being annihilated. But it doesn't seem to be a problem to do this. It just prolongs the process of annihilation of the entire army. It is just the difference between one being slow death and the other being rapid death. Thinking of this, Yi Tian couldn't help but break out in cold sweat. This is going to be a big trouble, unless someone can quickly kill the peak C-level and B-level monsters behind them. Only in this way can this deadlock be broken. But is this possible? Thinking of this, Yi Tian couldn't help but feel a little heavy. Roar. And before Yi Tian could think about it for a long time, the tiger-like monster seemed to sense something. He couldn't help but roar. Immediately, the monsters that only surrounded but not killed exposed their fangs. Rushed towards the escort. Fight. You must die with dignity. Seeing this, Yi Tian couldn't help gritting his teeth. Said secretly. But at this moment, look, what is that? A cry of surprise suddenly came. It directly attracted the attention of everyone present. Yi Tian, the people in the escort team, and all the magical beasts all looked over subconsciously. And just this look directly left a very deep impression on them. Make them unforgettable. Shocked. I saw a red and white, cool armor that I had never seen before, standing in the sky. He held a sharp sword in his hand, and it seemed to be shining brightly even in the secret realm. Fire punishment sword, fire punishment universe. Seeing this cool armor, he shouted softly. Then under the horrified eyes of everyone, sword lights appeared instantly. It shrouded the whole place, and then all the C-level monsters were directly turned into pieces, and even the B-level monsters in the early stage were immediately filled with hatred. The scene instantly became a lot emptier. The guards present subconsciously opened their mouths and were shocked. Watching the armor in front of them slowly fall to the ground, they felt that they would never forget the sword light falling from the sky in their lifetime. I asked why in the dignified Tianai secret realm, although there were many monsters along the way, there were basically no mid-level B-level existences. So that's it. I saw Yi Feng slowly falling on the ground, holding a burning sword. Said softly. Boom. At this time, Yi Feng was fighting in the secret territory of Tianai. At this time, this has caused suffering to everyone outside the secret realm of Tianai. I saw. What did you say? Yi Tian's child Yi Feng ran into the secret territory of Tianai. Zhao Qing was also followed in. At this time, the old man was looking sad. Hearing the words of the escort team leader, he became even more distressed. He couldn't help but stretched out his hands and pressed tightly on the shoulders of the team leader. Said loudly, "If this is true, then what if there is an accident? Then Tianai City will lose a strong man and 2 geniuses. This is definitely Kyushu's loss." In particular, Yifeng was the only creation talent. Even though he chose the armor ability, it still left a deep impression on him. He is a rare talent. Now it's gone right under his nose. This gave him the shame to return to the imperial capital and face his good friends. Thinking of this, the old man's expression became more and more serious. Staring at the group leader closely. I hope he said it wrong and he heard it wrong. Not only him, but also the senior officials of Tianai Academy heard this and subconsciously looked at the team leader. A serious look on his face. Eyes full of worry. This made the team leader break into a cold sweat. Feeling the gaze of all the big guys, I felt inexplicably stressed inside. Yes, but he still nodded and replied honestly. Then how did they get in? According to people at the time, it seems that the nether demon that escaped from the secret realm was destroyed by Yifeng and others, and a token was left behind. And that token can lead to this secret realm. Yifeng entered through this secret realm. That's right. Then Zhao Qing wanted to stop Yifeng, so he stretched out his hand to pull Yifeng. Unexpectedly, they ended up going in together. When the old man heard this, he couldn't help but frown. Then he spoke. Before he finished speaking, the group leader seemed to have guessed what the old man would say. Without waiting for the old man to finish speaking, he spoke immediately. A serious look on his face. He told the general situation when he learned that Yifeng entered the secret realm. The proclaimer who came with him added. After listening to the information from the team leader, he looked at the serious-looking announcer and the silent Zhao Shui and other testers. The old man and the senior officials of Tianai Academy couldn't help but fell silent. Then the old man slowly came back to his senses and shook his head. Sighed softly. "It's really so impulsive," said softly. A look of helplessness on his face. The others heard this and nodded subconsciously. However, before they could say anything, at this time, boom, a huge shaking sound suddenly came, directly attracting the attention of everyone present. Subconsciously he turned his head and looked over. It also directly caused the team leader who wanted to continue to say something to swallow his words and looked over together. There was a look of surprise and uncertainty on his face. This tremor is far greater than before, and it seems to be happening in the central place. What happened inside? How could such a vibration occur? Thinking of this, everyone present looked surprised and uncertain. This vibration also directly attracted the attention of the residents around the Tianai secret realm, and they subconsciously looked over. Surprised and uncertain, At this time, Yifeng had no idea how much attention his actions had attracted from the outside world. It surprised many people. At this time, he was holding a burning sword and walking towards these escorts with an indifferent expression. At the same time, I was a little surprised inside. Unexpectedly, Yi Tian and his team are here. I just heard the sound of fighting here, so I quickly came to take a look. Unexpectedly, it would be Yi Tian's team. Boom. And just when Yifeng was secretly surprised, Yi Tian also came back to his senses. He forced the 4 slightly distracted monsters back, and then moved closer to Yifeng. At the same time, he looked at Yifeng's armor and frowned slightly. Recalling Yifeng's previous voice, he looked confused. Have we met before? Have we met? Zhao Qing, who was rushing over after hearing this, couldn't help but be a little stunned. Yifeng is naturally faster than Zhao Qing, and every time Yifeng advances, he will naturally kill all the monsters along the way. Adhering to the principle of shameful waste, Yifeng never let go of any monster he encountered. Kill them all, and then put all the magic crystals of these monsters into the summoner. And because of this, a road was naturally opened without much danger. Feel free to let Zhao Qing go alone. So when Yifeng arrived at his destination, killed many monsters instantly and cleared a clearing, Zhao Qing came in a hurry. However, before she could come to her senses and say something, hearing Yi Tian's words, he couldn't help but be startled. A look of surprise on his face. He looked at Yi Tian with a strange expression. Didn't he recognize Yifeng? At this time, when Zhao Qing appeared, At this time, the guards who were looking at Yifeng in a daze came to their senses. They all looked at Zhao Qing with a somewhat surprised expression. Are you Zhao Qing from Tianai College? One of the most famous geniuses in Kyushu, why do you appear here? This scene was naturally discovered by Yi Tian, and he couldn't help but follow the gaze of his team members. This sight made Yi Tian stunned. This person also gave him a very familiar feeling, and not only was he familiar, but he also knew him. Know who this person is. Isn't this person Zhao Qing, one of the top leaders of Tianai College? At a young age, he has the strength of an early B-level person, and he may not be able to step into the S-level ranks before he is 30, and become one of the strongest people in Kyushu. Gifted. But the key point is that this is the secret realm of Tianai. Isn't there an old man guarding the door? So why did Zhao Qing appear here? How could those people be so relieved? He couldn't help but said with surprise on his face. Then Yi Tian seemed to find something again, looking at the mess behind Zhao Qing. The ground was covered in blood, and feeling the aura emanating from Zhao Qing is still in the early stage of B-level. He looked confused. Are you together? He couldn't help but glance at Yifeng who was standing aside, then looked at Zhao Qing and said. A serious look on his face. But, when Zhao Qing heard this, he nodded blankly. Then he seemed to think of something and came back to his senses instantly. He was about to say something to Yi Tian. However, before she could say anything, she was directly interrupted by Yi Tian. So, you must have come from Kyoto for support. I didn't expect you to arrive so quickly. Thanks to you just now. If it weren't for you, I'm afraid my team members would have just. Yi Tianqiang suppressed the inexplicably familiar feeling in his heart and thought it was because of his nervousness. Then he walked to Yifeng, looked at Yifeng and spoke slowly. Obviously Yi Tian thought Yifeng was from Kyoto. Because if you want to enter the secret realm of Tianai, you must pass through the old man and the senior officials of Tianai Academy. He didn't think anyone could get in through other means. Those who can come in must have the permission of the old man and the others, and this person Yi Tian is sure that in the 10 years he has been in Tianai, he has definitely never seen this person, let alone heard of this person. So they can only come from the Kyoto area, and Zhao Qing will come, but those people want Zhao Qing to gain knowledge and give it a try. I really like Zhao Qing. Thinking of this, Yi Tian couldn't help but feel a little emotional. I'm afraid Yi Tian never dreamed that they really didn't come in through formal channels. He never dreamed that there was such a thing as a token. He didn't expect that a newcomer would have such terrifying strength. The key is that it was not his illusion, but a real understanding and incomparable familiarity. But Yi Tian didn't know this. At this time, he was a little confused, and that was why the people sent by Kyoto didn't seem to be A-level yet. Could it be that there is also a problem in Kyoto? Not many people can use it. And does this person have armor powers? Are there people like this in Kyushu? Why hasn't he heard of it? Although Yi Tian had various confusions, Yi Tian knew that without the man in armor in front of him, they would have been dead. He suppressed the weird gratitude in his heart and said with a grateful face. When other members of the escort heard this, they nodded subconsciously. His eyes were full of gratitude. If there's anything else, let's talk about it later. Let's resolve this situation first. Yifeng heard this and shook his head. There was no nonsense and he spoke directly. Then, under the astonished eyes of everyone, he swung his sword directly towards Yi Tian. With Yi Tian's somewhat dazed look on his face, he directly ignored Yi Tian's face and chopped off the mid-level B-level monster that was attacking Yi Tian. Then he jumped lightly and rushed directly towards the still-living monster. At the same time, he took out another summoning card. Fire gun. Then Yifeng held a gun in his left hand and a sword in his right hand. Fight with these monsters. Sure enough, it's still very familiar. At this time, Yi Tian touched his face and murmured in a daze. At this time, it was at the center of Tianai's secret realm. At this time, Yifeng was holding a fire gun in his left hand and a burning sword in his right hand. Fighting fiercely with the remaining monsters. Except for the 4 strongest monsters. At this time, there were actually 50 monsters gathered here. And just under Yifeng's previous move, the sudden attack, 30 monsters were immediately killed by Yifeng and turned into pieces. At this time, there were only 20 monsters left fighting fiercely with Yifeng. Surrounded Yifeng, and then rushed over. Suddenly, boom, all kinds of fierce fighting sounds, all kinds of explosions and collisions caused by fighting resounded in the ears. It's exciting. Looking at this scene, Yi Tian raised his eyebrows. But Yi Tian's mind is not here at this time. At this time, Yi Tian's mind was on Yi Feng, watching the opponent's fighting posture. Thinking back to the voice of the other party, he couldn't help but frown. Did I really see him somewhere? Otherwise, what's the point of this sense of familiarity? But who could it be with such strength? And while Yi Tian was thinking secretly, Zhao Qing on the side saw this scene. Seeing Yi Feng fighting fiercely with these monsters, he couldn't help but feel worried. Captain Yi, hurry up and help. His strength is only half a B level. Even if he is gifted, he can kill early B level monsters. But it is still very difficult to deal with mid-level B-level monsters, especially now that we are attacked by so many mid-level B-level monsters, including peak B-level ones. If this continues, there will be great danger and even life. Zhao Qing looked at Yi Tian in front of him and couldn't help but speak. His eyes were full of worry. Yi Tian came back to his senses instantly and listened to Zhao Qing's words. His brows furrowed slightly. Half-step B-level. This strength is only half a step to B-level, leapfrog to fight. Such a strong talent, he said with a surprised look on his face. Why would Kyoto send someone with such a high talent here? It's too dangerous. If it is folded inside, it will definitely be a loss for the entire Kyushu. Thinking of this, Yi Tian came back to his senses instantly. I was about to turn around and help. At this time, the guards also endured the pain and fatigue and cheered up. Let's go help too. However, Yi Tian didn't wait for Yi Tian to take action, or for everyone in the escort team to finish speaking. Just when Yi Tian turned around to look, boom! An explosion sounded. I saw Yi Feng blowing a mid-level B-level monster into pieces with one shot, and then decapitating the attacking monster with a sword. Then he jumped back, several sword lights appeared, and several more monsters died immediately. Looking at this scene, Yi Tian and others couldn't help but become a little silent. Yi Tian, everyone in the escort team. Zhao Qing. Then Yi Tian slowly came back to his senses and turned his head to look at Zhao Qing. Are you sure that he only has half a B-level strength? Yu said. Zhao Qing couldn't help but become a little silent. He was stunned. And while Yi Feng was fighting fiercely with these monsters, the secret realm became more and more turbulent. Although the vibration now is not as intense as before, it is still shaking. Moreover, the previous shock left a deep impression on everyone present. What happened to this secret realm? What happened before? What's going on with this violent vibration? At this time, the old man looked at the secret realm in front of him. I frowned tightly as I suppressed the thought of going in to find out. He said with a serious look on his face. Others couldn't help but become a little silent after hearing this. This is especially true when you think that Yi Feng and Zhao Qing are also inside. I don't know if they have met up with Yi Tian. Did something happen? In such a fierce battle, probably nothing will happen. And just when everyone was silent and the atmosphere was a little strange. At this time, the team leader looked at this scene and couldn't help but hesitate. He always felt that the reason why this secret realm was shaking from time to time might be related to Yi Feng. And this matter must be explained clearly to the old man and these senior officials. After all, a report can never start but end at the end, right? Thinking of this, the team leader gritted his teeth and came to his senses. Looking at the old man in front of him, he slowly spoke. Besides, I still have something to say. The Nether Demon came out of the secret realm. And as soon as he arrived, he headed towards the Warcraft Forest, triggering the Warcraft Rebellion. At that time, there were many magical beasts heading towards the Trialists, and this Nether Demon took the peak sea-level magical beasts to stop Zhao Qing and the Proclaimer. As he spoke, he looked towards the old man with a serious look on his face. The meditating old man and the senior officials of Tianai Academy came to their senses instantly. Subconsciously, he looked towards Zhao Shui and others and saw that they had no casualties. He couldn't help but look towards the group leader subconsciously. You mean that someone else solved the Warcraft incident, not Zhao Qing? He spoke slowly. Yes, that person saved a group of Trialists, killed the only sea-level monster in the Warcraft Forest, saved Zhao Qing and the Proclaimer, and eliminated the Nether Demon and the incoming monsters. The team leader heard this and nodded. Quickly finish what happened at that time. The old man's expression softened slightly. It seems that there are quite a lot of powerful people hiding in Tianai City. This person can try to bring down the guards or the academy. He couldn't help but nodded and said, looking at the group leader at the same time, the meaning is self-evident. To get that person back, however, actually, you don't need to look for that person. You already know that person and have seen him before. Seeing this, the group leader naturally knew what the old man was thinking. He couldn't help but speak quickly. The old man couldn't help but be stunned. I know it myself. I ran through it carefully in my mind, and it seemed like everyone I knew was in Kyoto. Except for some senior officials of Tianai College and Zhaoqing, Tianai's people. There seems to be no one who has the strength to solve this problem. Who? I couldn't help but ask subconsciously. Yifeng, Master Yi. The team leader heard this and said seriously. Oh, it turns out to be Captain Yi Tianyay's young master Yifeng. What are you saying? Say it again. Quote question mark question mark question mark question mark quote. Quiet. The Tianai secret realm, which was already very quiet at this time, became even quieter. Some stared at the group leader dumbfounded, while subconsciously touching their ears. Some wonder if I heard it wrong. However, yes, the Warcraft rebellion was solved by Yifeng, just like you think. It's either the same name or the same surname, or the young master Yifeng you think of. That Yifeng who just awakened not long ago. That's him. Zhaoqing and I were also rescued by him. At this time, the proclaimer on the side heard. He nodded and agreed, a serious look on his face. Yes, it's hard to believe, but it's true. We were all saved by Yifeng. In fact, if it weren't for him, we would have been lying in the Warcraft forest, and I wouldn't be here. At this time, Zhao Shui saw this scene. He nodded subconsciously and took a step forward slowly. Looking at the old man and the senior officials of Tianai Academy, he slowly spoke. A serious look on his face. The trialists behind him also came to their senses after hearing this. I couldn't agree more. Yes, that's it. Master Yi is really great, beyond our expectations. He is definitely the most talented inheritor I have ever seen or heard of. I can only say that he deserves to be Master Yi, and deserves to have the legendary level of creation talent. Quote. He had a serious look on his face and his eyes were full of admiration. And listening to everyone's words, they looked at the serious expressions of the announcer and the testers. Even the old man and the senior officials of Tianai Academy had to believe and accept this fact. Especially those high-level officials softened a lot after listening to the tester's words. His eyes were full of surprise. I never thought that this dandy boy would be a world-creating talent. Superior to SSS-level talents. This really surprised them, and at the same time a hint of understanding flashed in their eyes. Is this the power of creation talent? He actually had such strength when he woke up. At this time, the news of Yifeng's choice of armor power has not been completely spread, at least these people are not aware of it yet. But the old man is different. He knows Yifeng's affairs well and knows what power Yifeng chose. To be honest, although he was also curious about Yifeng's power. But I just feel that Yifeng may bring some changes to the world and give him new understanding. But I never expected that Yifeng would have such strength. Is this still the armor ability he is familiar with? The armor potential of cognition. Thinking of this, the old man couldn't help but become a little silent. Astonished. At this time, when everyone was in shock. At this time, the people 10 miles away from the Tianai secret realm were completely boiling. The Tianai secret realm has been shaken many times, especially the biggest shake before, which completely attracted the attention of these people. This is especially true as the vibration frequency seems to be getting faster and faster. The surrounding residents were frightened. Did something change happen in this secret realm of Tianai? Why is it always vibrating? Is there something coming out? Or are the monsters in the secret realm trying to break through the restrictions of the secret realm and coming out? He said with a worried look. Then those powerful superpowers couldn't help but nodded secretly. Gritting their teeth, they all headed towards the Tianai secret realm. If something goes wrong, you can stop the loss in time. Stop the danger near the secret realm of Tianai. And just when everyone outside the Tianai secret territory had different expressions, there was another scene inside the Tianai secret territory. Listening to Yi Tian's question, he looked at the scene of Yifeng fighting these monsters. Zhao Qing couldn't help but fell silent and opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. What level of strength is that? It should be in the early stage of B level. After all, his talent is already abnormal, so he just needs a temporary kick. It seems normal to break through so quickly. He had no choice but to shake his head and speak slowly. Amazed. However, no, according to my perception, he should be mid-level B grade. And it's not just mid-level B grade. It is also an extremely powerful existence in this realm. Yi Tian heard this and shook his head. He said with a serious face. His eyes couldn't help but be filled with wonder. This was the first time he saw such a person. It is really rare to be able to break through 2 realms in a row. What? After listening to Yi Tian's words, Zhao Qing was still reluctantly calm. At this time, he became completely uneasy and his expression changed. A look of shock on his face. It's not the early stage of B level, but mid-level B level. Numb. Completely numb. How long has it been? Not even an hour. What a breakthrough. Are you sure you're not kidding me? However, before Zhao Qing could say anything, he saw Yifeng resisting the peak B-level monster and even repelling it. If you want to say something, just mute it. At this time, she only had one idea. Who said armor has poor potential? Say it and I promise not to kill it. No wonder Yifeng's previous move could kill many Warcraft including early B-level monsters instantly. So this is why, it turns out that the strength is no longer at the half-step B level, but at the mid-level B level. But isn't this strength raised too quickly? Hey, he's just a pervert. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing slowly came back to his senses. He shook his head and sighed softly. He spoke slowly. Make up your mind not to compare yourself to Yifeng in the future. Otherwise, comparing people to each other is simply infuriating. Just compare yourself. Well, that's right, just compare yourself. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing's expression softened a lot. At this time, Yi Tian's didn't know what Zhao Qing was thinking, so he gave Zhao Qing a strange look. Although it is indeed strange to break through 2 realms at once. But what's going on with you looking so distracted? So exaggerated. As for that, if you have a solid foundation and strong talent, you can indeed break through 2 realms in a row. Yi Tian only felt that Zhao Qing seemed to be a little short-sighted. He couldn't help but shook his head. That's what young people are like, they don't have enough experience. You're still too young, whispered softly. He didn't say anything after that, but looked at Yifeng at this time. He is stronger than I thought. Although it seems like a long time passed. But actually it didn't take long, less than a minute. However, in such a short time, there were still 20 monsters left. There are only 10 heads left at this time. And it's still more or less injured. Especially some peak B-level monsters are struggling to hold on. It won't take long for them to be killed and eliminated by Yifeng. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian's eyes were filled with astonishment. If he hadn't been able to clearly feel the superpower emanating from the place, he would definitely be in the mid-B level. He almost thought that Yifeng was a half-A level existence. It seems that even among B levels, the person in front of me is top-notch. Then he rushed forward, his hands wrapped in the wind. However, the target was not these monsters, but the early A-level monsters, which surprised Yi Tian. This early A-level monster saw Yi Tian attacking it and gave Yifeng a deep look. Then he stepped back directly. The 3 half-step A-level monsters on the side followed closely behind, guarding the A-level monsters. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian couldn't help but be stunned. Looking at this scene with astonishment. Are they afraid of something? In this way, the A-level monster seemed to be staring at that person. Could it be that he was afraid of that person? But how is this possible? How could an early A-level Warcraft be afraid of a mid-level B-level superpower? Shaking his head, Yi Tian waved away these unrealistic thoughts. He looked towards Yifeng in astonishment. Who are you? He spoke. Speaking of which, I still don't know who the other person is or how to call him. I am Xingtian Armor now, of course you can also call me Yifeng. Yifeng heard this and felt Yi Tian's sight. Even before Yi Tian finished speaking, Yifeng knew what Yi Tian wanted to say. He couldn't help but speak directly without waiting for Yi Tian to finish. After saying that, there was no need to pay attention to Yi Feng. Instead, he looked at the monsters around him and the A-level monsters that were getting farther and farther away from him. He couldn't help but nodded, and then he took back his fire sword and electric light gun. It's time to end this fight. Palm of Fire. Just take out a summoning card and put it in the summoner. Said softly. Prepare to kill all these monsters in one go. At this time, Yi Tian listened to Yi Feng's words and nodded subconsciously. Xingtian armor. Is this the name of your armor? Then Yi Feng is your real name, Wait, your name is Yi Feng. Said subconsciously. Then he seemed to think of something and came back to his senses instantly. Looking at Yi Feng exclaimed. A look of astonishment on his face. His expression was very stunned and unbelievable. No wonder he felt so familiar. No wonder Zhao Qing looked at him strangely at first. It turns out that the Xingtian armor is Yi Feng. But, one of the special moves, Fire Punishment Wind and Cloud Palm. Seeing the soft drink coming down, Yi Feng directly swatted at these monsters. Suddenly, boom, along with an explosion, these monsters immediately started to burn. It was instantly burned by flames, as if forming a circle of flames. Seeing this scene, Yi Feng instantly killed all the monsters. Standing there stupidly. This is the Yi Feng I know. The Fire Punishment Wind and Cloud Palm can make the opponent burn when it hits it. At this time, under Yi Feng's blow, all the monsters surrounding Yi Feng burned. Wailing endlessly. His eyes were full of pain. Screams resounded throughout this secret realm. Seeing this scene, Yi Tian's was a little confused. I doubted myself. The person in front of me is really Yi Feng. Is it the Yi Feng he knows? Didn't he just wake up today? So what's going on? Do you have such strength when you wake up? Thinking of this, Yi Tian was a little confused. I couldn't help but touch my ears. Did I hear it wrong? But at this time, it wasn't just Yi Tian. Others present heard this and couldn't help but feel excited. At this time, a group of guards were about to step forward to help. Work together with Yi Feng to eliminate these monsters. But before they could take action, they were shocked by the scene in front of them. Look at all the monsters burning under Yi Feng's move. His movements couldn't help but stop, and his expression became somewhat silent. Especially after hearing Yi Feng's name. There was a look of confusion on his face. Yi Feng, isn't this Captain Yi's young master? Didn't he just wake up today? How could he have such strength? And looking at this situation, it seems that Master Yi has obtained the armor power. But does armor have this power? Looking at such a powerful Yi Feng, I thought that Yi Feng seemed to have broken through 2 realms in a row, from a half-step B-level breakthrough to the mid-B level. Directly equal to them or even surpass them. I can't help but have some doubts. Silent. And just when everyone looked silent and shocked. At this time, as these flames gradually extinguished, these magical beasts gradually turned into ashes and scattered in the sky and earth. Seeing this scene at this time, Zhao Qing slowly came back to his senses. Yi Feng. Coming to Yi Feng, he slowly spoke. A smile on his face. His expression was very serious. You are a pervert. When you first awakened, you already had half a B-level strength. And now not long after entering the secret realm, you are already in the mid-level B level. It's not as fast as you on a rocket. Tell me, how did you do it? Zhao Qing looked at Yi Feng and said slowly, staring at Yi Feng closely. At the end, his eyes were full of curiosity. It's really him. After listening to Zhao Qing's words, Yi Tian and others slowly came to their senses. His expression became a little enlightened. So, there is no doubt that this person is Yi Feng. It just made Yi Tian and they feel even more dumbfounded. What was surprising was, according to Zhao Qing, it is true that Yi Feng had this power just after awakening, and he has half-step B-level strength. And also after entering the secret realm, he was promoted to the mid-level B level. Previously, Yi Tian thought that the reason why Yi Feng could improve so quickly was because of his good foundation and strong strength. But now that I think about it, but that's really not the case. This god has such a good foundation. What foundation can a newly awakened person have? If there is, it can only be due to talent and powerful and special abilities. But, thinking of this, Yi Tian looked at Yi Feng's appearance in armor and couldn't help but fell into deep thought. I'm sure Yi Feng chose armor. Of course it's because of the battle, when Yu Xingtian's armor meets the conditions. Then the power will erupt far beyond this moment. At this time, Yi Tian was in shock. Yi Feng didn't care what they thought at this time. Listening to Zhao Qing's words, he nodded slightly. He clenched his fist slightly and touched his armor. He spoke slowly. In the armor world, whether it is the 5 elements armor or the Xingtian armor, those who summon people improve their strength through battle after battle. In the end, you can even summon the emperor and even upgrade your own armor. It can be said that the best way to improve your strength is to fight. Improve the strength of your armor through battles. And this characteristic naturally appears in this world. And this is one of the important reasons why Yi Feng's strength can improve so quickly. Or maybe the reason why you can improve your strength by absorbing magic crystals is based on this characteristic. And listening to Yi Feng's words, Zhao Qing couldn't help but be stunned. Far beyond this power, whispered softly. It means that it is beyond the armor at this time, the limit of the armor. Is there still power above the armor? For example, further changes. Thinking of this, Zhao Qing looked surprised and uncertain. I don't know what Yi Feng was thinking at this time. And just when Zhao Qing looked stunned. At this time, Yi Feng also came back to his senses and looked at the 4 magical beasts that were getting further and further away. His expression condensed slightly. I have a way to kill them instantly. Yi Feng narrowed his eyes slightly as he looked at the monster that was gradually moving away. His eyes were full of coldness. Yi Feng would never believe it if there were no ghosts in it. A monster with A-level strength and 4 monsters that were stronger than him stepped back when they saw him, showing fear on their faces. Especially after seeing that he retreated even faster after taking care of those monsters. But the key is that the strength of these monsters is far lower than these monsters. The strength is only B-level, far from comparable to these monsters. But even so, these monsters retreated. It's strange that there are no ghosts in it. And there are only 2 things that can lead to such a result. Either one is afraid of his own strength, but Yi Tian can sense it. Although Yi Feng's strength has improved rapidly at this time, it is only at the mid-level B level. Although he has extraordinary talents and extraordinary combat power, he can only defeat the ordinary B-level peak and compete with the ordinary half-step A-level. There is absolutely no way you can compete with the early A-level monsters. So you feel afraid because of Yi Feng's strength. That is absolutely impossible. Then there can only be another one, that is, the other party subconsciously thinks that Yi Feng is very strong. For example, a person who is stronger than this monster often nags him. Then this result will be caused, because only people with good strength will attract the attention of the other party. And obviously this A-level monster thinks so. Even if the other party thinks so, when it senses its own aura, it will only think that Yi Feng is setting a trap. This person has a very dark heart. Deliberately let it come forward to die. Make a strong reversal. But the devil tiger said, it has already seen through this trick. So he took his younger brother back early, waiting for Yi Feng to concentrate on solving these monsters. Decisively speed up and retreat. I want to leave this place of right and wrong. However, did it overestimate Yi Feng and make a wrong decision? Maybe it just went forward to kill, maybe it was another story, so Yi Feng was not sure about this. But what Yi Feng is sure of is, this guy must be related to the Nether Demon. At least he knows about him and knows something. So this guy can't escape. Thinking of this, Yi Feng snorted coldly. Can you escape? Although I don't know why these monsters suddenly and inexplicably escaped, they are obviously not completely at a disadvantage yet. But that's all we can do. After all, we have run a certain distance. If we want to kill him, What did you say? At this time, Yi Tian also came back to his senses. He slowly came to Yi Feng and seemed to know that Yi Feng was his child. My mentality instantly relaxed a lot, and my tone became more casual. Looking at the 4 escaped monsters, he sighed softly. He shook his head slightly and spoke slowly. A look of emotion on his face. The others heard this and nodded subconsciously. Even if I try to catch up now, I feel like I won't be able to catch up. What's more, even if you catch up, you may not be able to keep the other party, and someone may be sacrificed or even reversed. Become a crisis. If there is a big overturn, then we will be in trouble. So not only Yi Tian, but also everyone in the escort team didn't think they could keep these monsters. However, before I can think about anything, listen to Yi Feng's words. Yi Tian, who was saying something, spoke directly, with a look of surprise on his face. His eyes were filled with astonishment. When the others heard this, they couldn't help but be shocked. Looking at Yi Feng in surprise, he blinked subconsciously. Did you hear it wrong? Yi Feng, are you telling the truth? At this time, Zhao Qing slowly came back to his senses. Arriving in front of Yi Feng, his expression condensed slightly. He spoke slowly, looking at Yi Feng seriously. Yi Feng, what do you think we should do? At this time, Yi Tian also came back to his senses. After listening to Zhao Qing's words, he glanced at Zhao Qing subconsciously. Although according to common sense, a mid-level B-level person wants to kill 3 half-step A-level and early-level A-level monsters in seconds. It's absolutely impossible. No one has ever been able to do it. But this is Yi Feng. So Yi Tian was willing to believe in him. Even if he didn't succeed, it would be okay. Because he is Yi Feng, that's all. And listening to Yi Tian's words, Zhao Qing couldn't help but be stunned. Then he came back to his senses and smiled softly. Looking at Yi Feng seriously. It's a bit difficult to use this trick, but it's still okay. Transmit your supernatural energy to me. Yi Feng heard this and nodded. Looking at the monster in the distance, he slowly spoke. A look of coldness on his face. In the armor world, Fang and King Kong gave their remaining armor energy to Xingtian. Xingtian recovered a lot of energy, and even directly transformed into the god of war Xingtian. Although Yi Feng cannot do this now, it is still okay to use his power beyond his current capabilities. At least it can be seconds. Listening to Yi Feng's words, Yi Tian and others couldn't help but be stunned. A look of surprise on his face. I don't know what Yi Feng wants to do. Then they looked at each other and nodded. Silently, he stretched out his hands to Yi Feng. The same goes for the guards on the side. At the same time, energy ripples spread towards Yi Feng and directly entered Yi Feng's armor. Suddenly a blue light emitted. Seeing this, Yi Tian and others felt a lot more at ease. Although he didn't know what Yi Feng wanted to do, he still increased his energy with confidence. But not long after, the confusion in my heart disappeared instantly and was replaced by shock. I saw armor recharging, Xingtian's special move, Xingtian Light Explosion Bomb. I saw Yi Feng holding his hands and folding them down. Boom! Suddenly, a powerful wave of air was released from Yi Feng, directly knocking Yi Tian and others back. Then Yi Tian and others didn't wait for them to come to their senses. What shocked them was, as Yi Feng's last words fell, I saw Yi Feng holding a lightning gun in both hands and pointing at the escaping monster. Then a powerful wave of energy appeared instantly, and the blue light emitted by the armor converged directly on the fire and electric gun. Then a dazzling flame bomb flew out directly and blasted towards those monsters. A direct hit. Suddenly the entire secret realm began to shake violently. What happened in this secret realm? This energy is probably slightly beyond the early stage of A level. What the hell is happening here? This is definitely not a battle-induced shock. Maybe something happened inside. At this time, when the old man and others were immersed in astonishment. At this time, a violent vibration suddenly came, which directly attracted the attention of everyone present. Let everyone come back to their senses subconsciously. At the same time, some people failed to stand firm and fell directly to the ground. A blank look on his face. Looking at this secret realm that was shaking constantly, it seemed as if it would be shattered in the next second. Everyone said with a look of surprise and uncertainty. The tone was more or less panicked. At this time, when the old man saw this scene, he slowly came back to his senses. He clenched his fists subconsciously. He said with a solemn expression. The expression is very serious. You mean? At this time, the dean of Tianai College heard this and stabilized his body. He slowly came back to his senses, turned his head and looked towards the old man. He spoke slowly. His brows were furrowed tightly, with a solemn look on his face. Maybe the secret realm can no longer restrict the things inside, and maybe the monsters inside are about to come out. Breaking out of the seal, coming to the real world, appearing in our world. When the old man heard this, he subconsciously clenched his fists. His expression condensed slightly, and he looked at the secret realm in front of him. He spoke slowly. The momentum was completely different from before, and it was chilling all over. Everyone present was shocked. Then he slowly came back to his senses and looked at the secret realm in front of him with a solemn expression. At this time, everyone around the Tianai secret realm also came over. Looking at the scene in front of me, I couldn't help but be surprised. It seems we arrived in time. Looking at this situation, something happened in this secret realm. We didn't expect that even people from Tianai Academy would come. The matter is more serious than we thought. Does it mean that the peace that has lasted for 20 years is about to end? This is the first time I have seen that the monsters in the secret realm will come to reality. Get ready to fight. They all talked about it. A solemn look on his face. His eyes couldn't help but be filled with astonishment. They were just worried, so they came over to check it out. Unexpectedly, something happened, and it seemed to be more serious than they imagined. People from the Tianai Guards and Tianai College came in and gathered here. This is definitely the first time ever. Thinking of this, all the superpowers were surprised, but they were also ready to fight. He looked at the secret realm with a serious face. Naturally, the people gathered, the old man and the dean also discovered it. I couldn't help but come back to my senses and looked over subconsciously. Looking at these generally C-level people, only a few are B-level folk superpowers. The old man and the dean couldn't help but nodded. It seems that the residents of Tianai City still have a strong sense of worry. Even before the emergency order was issued, he showed up on his own initiative. But look at this situation. Perhaps it's time to issue an emergency order from Tianai and call on the Tianai superpowers to fight together and nip the danger in the bud. Thinking of this, the old man and the dean slowly looked at each other. Thought secretly, I already have a decision in my mind. But at this moment, boom, a crackling sound came immediately, and then I saw a crack that was originally a small crack, and now it's split open. A large hole is formed that can accommodate 5 or 6 people. Seeing this scene, everyone came back to their senses instantly. My heart couldn't help but tighten. It seems it's too late. Looking at this scene, the dean shook his head. He smiled bitterly and said softly. Things developed faster than he imagined. After all, the secret realm has not been torn apart in the past 20 years. Who would have thought that it would happen now? By the time they react, it's already too late. Here they come. At this time, the old man came to his senses first. A trace of light appeared on his body, and he said with a serious face. When the others heard this, they instantly came back to their senses and looked over. 3 figures walked out slowly. Everyone looked very serious when they saw this. A war is about to break out. However, when he gradually saw the person coming, everyone was immediately confused. Why does this look familiar? People, come out, prepare to fight. Then, is it because my eyesight is dazzled? Why does it feel familiar to me? They do look familiar. Why do these first 3 look familiar? No, they are followed by a group of people. Could it be that the monsters inside have come out? No, that's not right. Why do those people behind me look so familiar to me? This. Quote. At this time, as the cracks in the secret realm opened directly, a big hole appeared. At the same time, 3 figures slowly walked out. Seeing this person, everyone present immediately cheered up. His spirit was tense, and his fists clenched slightly subconsciously. However, what surprised them was, why does this person look so familiar? It seemed as if I had seen it somewhere before, and I couldn't help but be stunned. Look at each other, he communicated with a look of astonishment. Especially when I discovered that the first 3 people seemed to be followed by something else. He cheered up even more and prepared himself for battle. His brows were furrowed tightly. However, what made them dumbfounded was that upon closer inspection, the things behind this seemed very familiar. Taking a closer look, the person coming seemed to be. No, they are not enemies. They are comrades in arms, they are our companions. It's the captain and the others, they came out safely. At this time, everyone in the escort team was the first to come to their senses. Looking at the increasingly clear figure, he exclaimed. He communicated with excitement. The fact that the captain and the others would appear here means that things are not as bad as they thought. And judging from how calm the captain and the others looked, it was obvious that the matter had been resolved. And everyone is safe and no one is injured. Thinking of this, everyone in the escort team couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. Extremely excited. At this time, hearing the exclamations from the escort team, the others also came back to their senses in an instant. He looked over subconsciously. They are right. Yi Tian and the others are back. At this time, the old man saw this scene. Smiling softly, he spoke slowly. His eyes were full of smiles and he nodded slightly. As the smoke slowly dissipated, I saw a resolute man and a good-looking woman standing on both sides. In the middle stood a supernatural being wearing a pair of armor that he had never seen before, standing proudly. Behind him were 15 members of the escort team who followed Yi Tian in, although they were more or less injured at this time. But at this time, their eyes were full of awe. Looking at Yi Feng's figure, their eyes couldn't help but be filled with various emotions such as horror, awe, and admiration. You are here, what happened inside? What's going on in this secret realm? At this time, the old man saw this scene. Slowly he walked forward, and when the people behind him saw this, they followed closely. The old man came to Yi Tian and looked at Yi Feng standing in the middle. He nodded secretly, a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. Is this Yi Fengbian's armor? The so-called Xingtian armor. It is indeed strange, completely different from the previous successors of armor. I secretly admired in my heart. Then he turned his head and looked at Yi Tian. He spoke slowly, his eyes full of curiosity. When the others heard this, they subconsciously looked at Yi Tian. Because in the eyes of everyone, Yi Tian is the strongest among them, so it can only be Yi Tian who solves the secret realm. Therefore, asking him, this insider, is the most correct choice. They don't think Yi Feng and Zhao Qing can solve this problem. Even though the old man and everyone at Tianai Academy knew that Yi Feng was very powerful. But it's only a half-step B level, and it's obviously impossible to solve this problem. So it can only be Yi Tian. Not only the old man, but others also thought so at this time. After listening to the old man's words, he subconsciously looked towards Yi Tian. His eyes were full of curiosity. At the same time, he looked at Yi Feng in the middle and looked at Yi Feng wearing armor. His brows couldn't help but frown, his eyes filled with confusion. This person chose the armor ability. There are still people choosing armor these days. Are you kidding? But he didn't say much. After all, this man was standing with Yi Tian and Zhao Qing. It shows that the other party has a good background and is not someone they can offend. Besides, they still care more about the secret realm than this. He couldn't help but suppress the confusion and other emotions in his heart, and looked towards Yi Tian. Seeing this, Yi Tian listened to the old man's questions and felt the gazes of everyone present. No, actually, just about to say something. However, at this moment a voice suddenly came. He directly interrupted Yi Tian's words and attracted the attention of everyone present. Dean, Mr. Zhang, there seems to be something wrong with this secret realm. All the monsters inside seem to be missing. It seems like everything has been wiped out. I saw a senior executive secretly checking the secret realm and seemed to have discovered something. Couldn't help but exclaim. He looked at the old man and the dean with a look of astonishment and said. When everyone heard this, they couldn't help but be shocked. A look of surprise on his face. Then he subconsciously looked at Yi Tian and others, filled with surprise and uncertainty. You just went in, and all the monsters inside were gone. What on earth were you doing in there? Thanks for watching, please like and subscribe my channel.